You ever get that feeling like you're running on a treadmill at work? You're putting in the hours, you're hitting your goals, but your paycheck, it just seems stuck in place. Well, turns out there's a very real reason for that, and we're gonna break it all down. So let's just jump right in with the big one. Who actually decides what you're worth? I mean, who sets that number on your paycheck? Most of us have an immediate answer that pops into our heads. You probably think it's your boss, right? The person sitting across from you during your performance review, but nope, it's not them. Honestly, they're just another player in the game, following a rule book they probably haven't even read themselves.
Okay, so if it's not your boss, then it has to be your experience, right? Your degree, all those certifications you worked for, wrong again. All of that stuff, it just gets you in the door. It doesn't set the final price. So what the heck is it then?
Get this, a machine did. And here's the crazy part, nobody ever told you it existed. It's been humming along in the background your entire career, quietly putting a hard ceiling on your salary.
So let's pull back the curtain on this so-called invisible machine. It sounds kind of sci-fi, but it's very real. It's a system, and it's steered by a handful of powerful economists, people you've never met and never voted for, making decisions that directly affect every single job offer and pay raise you ever get.
Now, I want to be super clear here. This is not some wild conspiracy theory. This is just basic economics. It's just the part they don't usually talk about in the company handbook. It's how the system works, right out in the open. And fair warning, once you see it, you really can't unsee it.
So, how does this thing actually work? How does it have so much control over your paycheck? Well, it all comes down to something we call the labor market. And trust me, it's not nearly as neutral as the name suggests.
The best way to think about this is to stop seeing the labor market as a place to find a job and start seeing it for what it is, a giant non-stop auction. Every single day, companies are bidding, and your skills, they're what's for sale. Your salary, that's just the winning bid. And you know how auctions work. The price has nothing to do with what's fair or what you deserve. It's all about simple, brutal supply and demand.
And this whole auction really just has two modes. Let's call them high leverage and low leverage. When there are more jobs than there are people to fill them, bam, you've got all the power. Companies are basically fighting over you and salaries shoot up. But when it's the other way around, when there are more workers than jobs, your leverage just evaporates. Now you're the one competing with everyone else, and salaries just flatline.
But here is the absolute key, the part you really need to get. This supply and demand balance, it is not a natural force like the weather. It doesn't just happen. No, it is actively managed. It is a dial that is being turned on purpose.
And here's exactly how they turn that dial. Step 1, central banks like the Federal Reserve raise interest rates. Step 2, suddenly it costs companies way more to borrow money for things like opening a new office or starting a big project. So what do? Step 3, they slow everything down. They expand less, and crucially, they hire less. This intentionally creates a bigger pool of available workers, which means more competition for every single job opening. And the final result of that chain reaction, a hard ceiling gets slammed down on your salary growth.
You know, they even have a technical, kind of wonky name for what they're aiming for. It's called NIRU. Now, it sounds complicated, but it stands for a really uncomfortable idea, that there's an ideal number of people who should be unemployed. Yep. The goal is to keep unemployment right around, say, 4 or 5%, because that's just enough to make sure that you and I don't get too much power to ask for big raises. It's pretty wild when you hear it said out loud, right?
Okay, I know this can all sound a little abstract, a little theoretical, but it's not. In fact, we all just lived through a perfect real-time example of this machine getting a major tune-up.
Just think back to 2021. People were calling it the Great Resignation. For a brief moment, workers had all the power. People were quitting jobs on the spot, getting huge pay bumps. It was a wild time. But then inflation took off. And what happened? The Fed slammed on the brakes, raising interest rates faster than they had in 40 years. Now, the public reason was to fight inflation, sure. But a very clear, very intentional side effect was to cool down that hot job market. And by 2023, it worked. All that leverage we had, poof, gone.
Just like that, the machine was adjusted. And for most of us, we didn't get a memo about monetary policy. We just felt it. It felt like a vibe shift in the air. Suddenly, finding a new job was way harder. Those incredible offers just dried up. Raises got a lot smaller. We all felt the consequences, but very few of us were ever told the real cause.
All right, so look, hearing all of this can be kind of depressing. I get it. It can feel like the whole game is rigged. But I want you to flip that thinking on its head. This isn't about being demoralized, it's about being empowered. Because for the first time, you actually understand the real rules of the game you've been playing your whole life. And that changes everything. Think about it this way. You've been playing a game with a blindfold on. Now you can see the whole board. And knowing how the system actually works is the first and most critical step to making it work for you.
So what are the actual moves you can make? How do you play this game smarter? Here are 3 big strategies. First, make your value portable. Don't let your skills get so specific to one company that you're trapped. You want skills that can travel anywhere. Second, learn to surf the macro waves. Don't just look for a job when you need one. Pay attention to the economic news. You want to time your big career moves for when the labor market is tight and companies are desperate for talent. And third, and this is a big one, build income off the grid. A side hustle, some freelance work, an investment portfolio, anything that makes you less dependent on that one single paycheck from the machine.
And here's the final truth. This machine, it's not evil. It isn't malicious. It's not out to get you personally. It's just a system. And systems don't have feelings. They don't care about your hard work or your loyalty. They just run. So if there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. Your salary was never, ever just about how hard you worked. It was always about the conditions of the game at the exact moment you were playing. Conditions that, now you know, are being set on purpose.
Look, seeing the machine doesn't mean you can go out and break it, but it absolutely means you can play the game smarter than almost everyone else who is still in the dark. So the question I'll leave you with isn't about the system anymore. It's about you. Now that you can see it all clearly, how are you going to play the game differently?